Bitcoiners, pre-coiners, no-coiners, and new coiners, welcome to Swan Lounge, a weekly show in which you get to hang out with the Swan team and some of our friends from the incredibly exciting world of Bitcoin. Now, before we dive in, we are doing something that I think is very, very special. If you've been watching the show, you know what I'm going to say. We are giving away Jan Pritzker's book, Inventing Bitcoin, for free in an effort to spread Bitcoin knowledge. You can go to swanbitcoin.com/free book to claim your copy. We have it in 3 different ebook formats and MP3, read by our friend Guy Swan at Bitcoin Audible. All we ask is that you pay it forward by sharing the book with at least 3 friends and family, preferably more. In fact, there's actually no limit to how many people you can share the book with. So go out, give the book to people you know, people you don't know, give it to everybody. And to all the Swan Force members out there, remember that if you look in your referral dashboard, you will find a link that you can use to send people to your Swan Force landing page so that they can get the free book offer and you can get the referral credit. Yes, you. And if you're not signed up for Swan Force yet, what are you doing? We have a great referral program that will let you get paid to recruit new Bitcoiners. Go to swanbitcoin.com. That's swanbitcoin.com/enlist to get started. You will earn 25% of Swan's fees on their purchases for 3 years. And your referral gets $10 of free Bitcoin if they open up an account with Swan. Also, make sure to watch to the end of the episode because our guests don't know this yet, but we have a special segment called Swan Force Fridays, and we will put those guests on the clock, give them 60 seconds to give us their best Bitcoin pitch. Also, I'd like to welcome anyone who is new to this show and to Swan Bitcoin. What is Swan Bitcoin? Swan Bitcoin, what is it? Swan Bitcoin, quite simply, is the easiest and best way to buy Bitcoin in the United States, available at swanbitcoin.com. We are live in all 50 states and territories, including Puerto Rico. We offer automatic recurring buys, instant buys for when you want to smash that buy button. And we recently launched Swan Private for high net worth individuals. Swan Private is being led by the Bitcoin philosopher himself, Mr. Robert Breedlove, and we are so excited to have him join the team. If you're interested in those services, please visit swanbitcoin.com/private. Now, before I bring in our guests, one last thing. Again, if you've seen the show before, you know I'm going to say, you've hopefully already done it. Please hit that like button and hit subscribe so you never miss a show. Doing so really helps us get seen on YouTube. It helps us grow the show, and it helps us spread Bitcoin to more people, which at the end of the day is why we are all here. And now, without any further ado, all right, a little bit further ado, we have some great guests today. We have the man, the myth, the legend, the host of The Breakdown, Nathaniel Whittemore himself, and we have... Is someone talking? Is that me? Is somebody not muted? Somebody's not muted. I forgot to mute Brady. My fault. And we have Andy Edstrom, the host of Why Buy Bitcoin, the author of Why Buy Bitcoin. But you know what? Maybe there needs to be a show called Why Buy Bitcoin. This is giving me all sorts of ideas. All right, I've been talking way too long. Y'all are sick of hearing me talk. Right now, I'm not procrastinating. I am unmuting everybody, unlike last time, which I always forget to do. And now it's time for Swan Lounge. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to the show.
What's up,
You're
Brecky?
unmuted. You can talk now.
How you doing?
What's up?
Brecky, that was caps lock energy.
Caps energy.
Should we talk about caps lock energy real quick? Yeah. All right. Well, for the viewers at home who aren't on Twitter, caps lock energy is not an energy drink. It's something that Matt Odell seems to have started. Matt Odell, the progenitor of many, many memes in the Bitcoin space, such as stacking sats, and the newly created Sat Squeeze. But Sat Squeeze is only in caps. And for the last couple of weeks, he has been tweeting only in caps. He's also been speaking in caps somehow. I don't know how that's even possible, but he does it. And it's pretty admirable. What do you think about the caps lock Odell and the Sat Squeeze, Nathaniel?
I mean, the dude's all-timer for Bitcoin memes. I mean, like, truly, when the story is written of this time, things that people will have taken for granted that exist will have come from him. So I assume that it's just going to continue.
I've tried it a little bit myself, and I can do it
super hard. It's way harder than it seems.
Yeah, I also thought it would be an easy way to fish for some retweets from Matt. He's very picky. He doesn't retweet them all. Very stingy, that guy.
He's a selective retweeter, but yeah, this is the energy, right? This is $50,000 Bitcoin energy. I don't know what we're gonna do when we're at $250,000, $500,000, $1 million. Like, I don't know. We gotta come up with something better than caps. Maybe we can figure out how to bold everything. Like just increase the size of the fonts. I don't know. Like everything can just be taken over by a white screen because the font is so big that that's the energy that we're gonna need.
I might have to just rock this hand and this swan with me at all times, I think that's the move. This is my caps lock right here. Just a strange little stuffed swan and this go Bitcoin hand.
Are we sure we're ready to go all caps now? The bull market has barely started. We're not even at $1 trillion, and Bitcoiners are just dancing on our enemies' graves all day long. What happens when we're really into it? Like in 6 months, what happens?
It could be a little soon, you know? Like you can't go double caps lock. What do we do when we get to that point where Bitcoin's at $1 million? You know, we go dark. We're gone. The show's over. You know, we're on an island somewhere maybe. But
I want a Max Keiser voice shifting device. I want everything that I say to sound like Max on a rant. That's what's required for the 6-figure and up Bitcoin.
We all have to be talking in rant voice. I like that. Oh, I forgot something. We've never done this. Can we do a price prediction for the end of the show? Everyone go around and tell us what you think the price will be at the end. I'm going to pull up.
I gotta see what the price is now.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Hold on, let me call my friend Elon real quick. Hey, Elon. Yeah,
Right.
you gonna market by today?
Pump it.
How much?
Pump it.
All right, my guess is 60,000.
All right. Well, currently you're at 47,645.
I don't mean to make any assumptions, but yesterday at about this time of day, I guess it was about 15 minutes earlier, I was in the midst of a pitch alongside the infamous Anthony Scaramucci, aka the Mooch.
The Mooch.
We were shilling Bitcoin to institutional advisors on behalf of Skybridge, and we did hit all-time high during that podcast, basically during that webinar. So, I'm willing to roll the dice and say we're gonna ATH one more time, 24 hours later.
These aren't ATHs though. We go up $1,000 here.
That means Andy is our good luck charm then. So Andy is our good luck charm. So we may hit all-time high just because Andy's here.
I have no shame about taking credit for anything, as you guys know. So play it on.
All right, Andy, I've got a question for you. Earlier this week, Citi maintained its rating of sell for MicroStrategy. Now, I bought some MicroStrategy when they initially downgraded them to a sell because I don't believe Citi, and I think they're part of the existing banking system that I'm not a fan of. So, what do you think? Are you long MicroStrategy, or would you?
I'm not currently long MicroStrategy. I really wish I'd bought the calls, the call options. That is, after making the call that MicroStrategy might issue debt in order to buy Bitcoin. It was a good idea. Too bad I didn't act on it directly. But if you do the valuation, you say Bitcoin value plus company value for MicroStrategy, the sum of the parts does not support the move in value compared to where Bitcoin has gone. Like Bitcoin's gone up, but MicroStrategy has gone up a lot. So is MicroStrategy a great buy? Is it better than buying Bitcoin directly? No. I think it's pumped up because there's still some buyers in the market that haven't got set up with the various on ramps, Swan or otherwise, and so in the meantime they're just buying these proxies. NLW knows all about that. He's been watching the space like a hawk.
Well, I don't want to take away from the breakdown, but if you have any insights to share here, what didn't make it into the breakdown? What was too boring for the breakdown in this crazy week?
Jesus, I mean, it was like it just kept going. Like it's honestly like there are some days where you have to where I have to wake up and I'm like, what am I going to pull today? You know, like how do I make something contextually relevant? I hate doing shows that are completely decontextualized from like the Daily Show, right? Like the purpose of the show is to be, you know, I want to get into like big kind of picture stuff, but I always want a hook of something that was going on. And I don't even remember the last day that there was something like that. Every day this week has been like, which of these things do I want to lead with? You know, like I feel like, you know, if anything, this week for me was a lot of like trying to parcel out and like kind of play out how things are likely to go, what they might mean differently, keeping track of stories that were there before. So it's like, you know, catching up on, and some of these stories are so quickly evolving, you know, the Nigeria ban story, which has very quickly turned into a Nigeria totally reevaluating what these assets actually into it, and potentially going in the exact opposite direction. And that's like, you know, I mean, basically every story that I did this week was out of date by the time it hit, you know, the podcast feed 3 hours after I recorded it or whatever. So, I mean, this is definitely tweeted earlier this week that like, we didn't have a year. I mean, I guess you could argue 2020, but like certainly no year before 2020 that had as much news as this week did, you know? So It's that's kind of the paradigm that we're living in now. And now that we fucking all have Clubhouse, it's like extra exhausting because you can never escape like content and community and conversation. Like we're just all of us are going to die before this bull cycle ends, not having even had a chance to enjoy having been right. So that's what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure.
Maybe Rubini is right, and we're all cokeheads, or if not, we will be very soon.
Oh my God, that fucking guy! He showed up again this week, didn't he? Too. I was like, oh, go away, come on.
Such a moron, man.
Sweet. Just to be clear,
these low time preference Bitcoiners are definitely a cokeheads. They're totally spending all their money that they're not buying Bitcoin with on the cocaine. Oh, sure, okay. This guy, like.
Wait, did he actually say that, or is that just what type of thing? Oh, I wish that he said that. That'd be amazing.
What he said was that he called Michael Saylor a cokehead without any proof, I assume, unless they were both at the same party in the same bathroom. In which case, screw you, Nuriel. Like, what the hell?
Dude, that is a real glass house situation there. If you want to go Google, I don't need to get into it, but like, come on, bro. not probably the argument you want to make.
I think there's something going on with time in Bitcoin space because I just realized that it's still Elon week. That was just a few days ago. I know. I don't really have anything else to say other than that's messed up.
That's what I did that yesterday too. I was like, oh, what, you remember last Monday when Elon said he bought a bunch of Bitcoin? No, that was this Monday. That was 4 days ago. Messed up.
I mean, we're still waiting to hear how much Bitcoin Elon himself personally bought. And whether he front ran all, his company, which I think he must have. He had to.
Oh yeah, of course he did. So what was the news? We had the Elon news.
We had the Canadian ETF. Big news, I think.
Canadian ETF. We had another big bank yesterday. Can't even keep track of them anymore. What was that? What was that bank? It's I don't know. It's a massive one.
Bank of New York Mellon.
Thank you,
Andy. Give us a breakdown on that. We keep saying breakdown because Nathaniel's here.
Yeah, I mean, BONY, B-O-N-Y, Bank of New York Mellon, or BONY for short, is, if not the world's largest, asset custodian, it's among the world's largest. And in the regular way, legacy financial markets, there actually aren't that many custodians of any significant size. There are many custodians, but there's only like 3 or 4, that have real scale. And that's one of them. It reminds me, I remember talking to a rep from BNY at a crypto conference. I think it was in 2018, and I was asking him where they were on, basically on Bitcoin and crypto at the time. Cause at that time I hadn't gone full Bitcoin, and he said they were nowhere. But yeah, when guys like that come around, it's like, who's left? I mean, it's a major move. They are a major player, and even though Fidelity's been around for a while, I'd say Bank of New York Mellon is a big deal.
It's the social capital. I mean, my dad flipped a little bit when that insurance company bought in, because my dad's been in the insurance world forever, and insurance companies are classically very, very conservative. So we're reaching that. I think we're past the point of no return. So it's going to be interesting. I wake up every morning and I'm just like, all right, who's today? Who's next?
Who's next?
Jay-Z's next.
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z's got next.
I want NLW's take. Who's next?
Who's next? I don't know. It's a good question. I think I would be shocked if there weren't 2 to 3 more Mass Mutual size insurance funds that have done the same thing that we just haven't heard about yet. I think tech CEOs, there's going to be a bunch of follow-ons, but I don't think that it's going to have the same resonance because like people are going to be like, it's tech CEOs. We already got the biggest one of those. You know what I mean? Like, I get if it was like a Zuckerberg or something, but like he's too busy, I don't know, like copying other features of other platforms and stuff to really care that much. And we've got Libra, so that's not going to happen. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess the more interesting question to me is like, what would be the most impactful next, right? Like what's a category that's a different frontier that hasn't been breached yet, you know? So like you've got these insurance funds. I think when people are looking to central banks or whatever, like it's a completely different category, like sovereign wealth funds and stuff. It's like, I don't know. Right now, the stories around corporate treasuries, I think the sovereign wealth type thing is probably pretty inevitable, but I don't think we're necessarily going to like love the first ones who have moved or do move, you know? So I don't know. I guess what are the categories of business that it would be like, man, we got to pay attention. Like obviously Buffett would be a huge narrative shift, but that's not happening. There's just no way, you know?
It will at some point.
Yeah, I mean, probably after he's dead, though. Like, honestly,
his kids.
I haven't heard any pensions yet.
Pensions, right? Yeah, pensions would be a big deal. Although pensions would be a big deal from a. It's almost this is actually a good expansion of that question. There's big deals in the context of what's going to make other institutions stand up and take note and accelerate that trend versus what's going to break into consumer consciousness, right? Because like, so let's say that. A huge like the CalPERS, right? Like buys in a big way, you know, massive California pension fund. All the people who understand how risk averse that fund is, how influential it's going to be in terms of like endowment allocations and all those sort of things is going to be like, whoa, that's a serious thing that we got to pay attention to. Whereas like the average person, there's no headline that goes with that that's going to make it to not CoinDesk or The Block or Cointelegraph or whatever, you know. Elon is obviously way more on the other side. Like Elon is kind of prime, like everyone else, you know, kind of noticing territory.
So who has the most to lose? Like which big companies have a lot of cash on their balance sheets? That's my question. You know, I'd like to see a company like that almost has nothing to do with Bitcoin or, you know, or tech, like, or something that like a household name like Disney. And like Disney was rumored to be at the Saylor conference anyway. So I don't know.
Yeah, entertainment would be interesting.
Would be. Let's ramp up this caps lock energy a little bit. To everyone in the chat right now, if you're not typing in all caps, type in all caps. Come on, do us a favor. Type in all caps. Don't make me break this out. We're going to bring up the energy just a little bit because this is Bitcoin and it's exciting. Somebody in the chat, go on Twitter, tag Matt Odell, tell him to join the show today. Tell him to be like, yo, he's missing out on all this caps lock energy and we need him. So get him over here. Bother the hell out of him. Spam him on Twitter.
Dude, that was hilarious last night.
How about that?
What?
There you go.
How about my name? Is that better?
Oh, that's way better. Yeah, what am I doing? I'm a disaster.
NLW beat us all to the punch. That's the advantage of having initials.
Initials, yeah, exactly.
I think an interesting narrative to watch here is watching municipalities, right? There's a shakeup here between where people are going to move to. Everyone's remote now. Obviously, Mayor of Miami is taking the lead here. But if he continues and people see more traction, is Austin going to have to respond? Is San Francisco going to have to respond? What are the next tier 2, tier 3 cities coming on? And I don't think it's going to matter really from a price perspective, but that really matters from an optics perspective, seeing, you know, your local mayor going all in on Bitcoin. I think normal people will respond to that.
Honestly,
yeah,
no, go for it.
I was just going to say Miami, so their resolution last night, the commissioners, I mean, Francis wanted them to go like full ham and just do the damn thing right away, which is, this is a democratic process. You're never going to get that. But what they voted for and agreed to 4-1 was, one, a whole bunch more studying, 2, finding a partner so that if they do things with Bitcoin later, they're like ready to go. They don't have to go through some whole vetting process. So they're basically pre-setting themselves up to say yes to all of these things regarding Bitcoin, including payments to employees, including accepting it as payment for, municipal fines, fees, et cetera, and potentially putting it on the treasury. And but one of the things they also agreed to do is an education campaign in English, Spanish, and Creole about crypto for their citizens. So to your point, like, you know, what we're studying, they're doing literally actively sharing it with Miami residents who are definitely not like hanging out on, you know, Swan Chat, and that's a pretty powerful thing.
Yeah, same FOMO with Uber, right? Uber CEO or whoever spoke on that said, hey, we're definitely not putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. And is that an opportunity for Lyft just to get free PR and just like put a flag in the sand there?
Well, also, didn't their stock go down after they announced that? I'm pretty sure it did.
It did.
It's pretty funny.
So did Tesla's, to be fair.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting, somebody was talking about this on Clubhouse about how if you're a large established company that is already doing well, you know, if you buy Bitcoin and Bitcoin goes down, I think you can write it off as a loss in some way. And if it goes up, then your treasury goes up. Andy, can you shed some light on that, on how that works?
Yeah, I'm no corporate accountant, but that is my understanding, is that it's asymmetric. So, you know, if you buy it at whatever 50K and then it goes up to 75K next quarter, that actually does not have an effect on the balance sheet on how it's marked. If the opposite happens, you know, if it goes from 50K to 40K, you actually do mark it down. You take an impairment, which actually, again, I'm no expert here on the corporate accounting or the tax, but it makes me think it's advantageous because it seems like you can book a loss which probably would be taxable, right? In other words, a taxable loss that you can offset to income. And then on the other side, you don't have to, you know, pay tax or realize a taxable gain unless and until you actually sell any of the Bitcoin. So yeah, the accounting is weird. Much corporate accounting is weird. It actually seems favorable, though, to me from a tax perspective.
What about the other side, which is that since you can't show increases in value from Bitcoin on your balance sheet, then your earnings per share will not benefit from Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So I've heard the opposite narrative. I think Caitlin Long had a good thread on that one.
I think you could. I think that was a good argument, you know, years ago or a decade ago. It used to be that book value, right? Speaking of Warren Buffett, I mentioned earlier, you know, was sort of a useful metric basically as an investor. You look at, okay, I don't want to pay too high a multiple over book value because book value in theory represents or has some representation, some correlation to the actual value of the business. Well, in a world of software giants, internet giants, where most of the value is intangible assets that don't show up on the balance sheet, that's kind of gone out the window. So yeah, I think that statement would have been right, you know, before we lived in a world where most of the world's biggest, most valuable companies, you know, their market cap has little or no relation to their book value, to their balance sheet value.
I cannot believe that these stupid companies are putting a Bitcoin on the balance sheet. What is wrong with them? I called it a bubble 10 years ago. I call it a bubble today. Don't ignore the fact that it's going up. It's a bubble. Every time it's a bubble.
How many years does it take for it to officially bubble argument to no longer work? I actually think this is a fascinating question. Like, is it 20? Is it 30? Like, let's say that Bitcoin completely implodes in 17 years, and the entire course of the industry was 29, and during that time, millions of people were employed and created businesses and spun off and other things. Like, was it still a bubble? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, at what point does it cease to be a bubble? Are we there? You know what I mean? It's such an interesting, fascinating thing.
I think it's more of a question of the person who's saying it. Like, so weird. I had a very weird morning because every now and then I will get the urge to reply to one of Roger Ver's ridiculous tweets. And I try to hold back.
That. Oh God, you need therapy.
This morning I did, though, and my tone has changed. It's more like I'm taking the tone of a disappointed parent now, in the hopes that maybe he'll change, maybe something will switch. And he did his classic. He actually DM'd me and did here's $1 of BCH, so you can't do this on Bitcoin, blah 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 blah. And you know, I actually this is the longest conversation I've ever had with Roger before, and I was very surprised and went back and forth, tried making my points. And there's just a cognitive dissonance. And for some people, I think they're so entrenched in either being right or there's like it's an ego thing. Like people like Nuriel and Schiff, like, I hope that one day they see the light, but for their own sake. But I don't know that they will, and I think it's just too late for some people.
Everyone will see the light. They'll be forced to at some point because they're getting their last dollar. Like Schiff and Rabini will be like having dinner together, going out dinner together, saying it's just a fucking bubble. It's a huge bubble, and all these fucking every 7 billion people, they're all fucking insane. They're all cokeheads, and they'll be like, sir, it's time to pay your tab. Okay, let me pull out their card. Here's $4,000. No, sorry, we don't take cuck bucks. Oh, okay. Fuck. I guess I'm just gonna have to kill myself.
What an amazing story.
I'm almost positive that Schiff will use Bitcoin as some major like pivotal moment thing. Like I would bet a pretty significant amount of coin on it. Like it's just whatever. That's why I don't engage at all, because it's so fucking disingenuous. It's not even worth anyone's time.
I think he owns it already. I think he's coordinating with his son. His son's gonna have a "I converted my dad" moment, and
it's all media. I mean, I think this is one thing I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been talking about this a lot. Like, especially when things get like hot in any market, Bitcoin or otherwise. Always ask, is someone's primary business model their like investments in the thing that they're talking about, or the fact that they're talking? Like, are they media or are they investor? No one's wrong or right. Like, obviously I'm media, like that's my business model. So it's not a critique, but you gotta know, you have to have that context because it changes the way that you look at it, like
100%. He's farming our engagement, and he's doing a fantastic job. Every single tweet is actually masterful because it's half true and it's triggering for Bitcoiners. We pile on, and his engagement 10x's or 100x's from him chirping about whatever else.
Yeah, NLW, you've been on this spot on with the analysis of basically crossover personalities, investors who've turned into talking heads and vice versa. Not that I would know anything about that in particular, but you got to ask the right questions. You got to know what their motivations are.
Yeah, and it's like, again, it's like totally fine. Like, dude, it takes a long time for people to figure out like what they're really good at, and some of them are awesome at it. I just think I think people way underestimate the capacity of audiences to like evolve with you and grow with like your perspective. And I actually think that like people who try in internet world, where we are constantly assaulted by new information and new learning, people who stake out a single like position and don't like engage with the world and engage with, what I mean? It's just I don't think it goes well. I think you get like, especially the more niche you pick, you're like the thing that you're going to hang your hat on, Yeah. And that, but by the way, that doesn't mean like people could throw that back in my face and be like, yeah, you're talking about fucking Bitcoin. Like, isn't that what all of you guys do? Like, you pick your thing and you don't change your mind. It's like, yeah, but there's such a huge complexity and like all these different dimensions of things that you engage with. It's more like the finance guys who are like, this is what's going to happen. Here's my theory. I've named it. I've branded it. And like, it's like, you are just like, what happens if you're wrong? I don't know. I see it a lot with the critics, especially like, critics trap themselves, like, or if they build their brand around criticism, like, to be clear, which is very different. Like, I'm a big fan of critics. I think critics are really important. And I actually don't even like when people are like, well, you've never built anything, you can't critique it. This bullshit. The people who are really good critics are really good critics for a reason, and like, it's important too. But like, if you've built your entire brand on critiquing a particular thing, you lose your business model the second you stop critiquing it, because like maybe you get a little bit of a pump if you're like welcomed back into the fold. That's why I think Schiff is the one who's like setting himself up to be like the super convert, you know what I mean? Like, and build the entire second phase of his like media career around it. That's my guess.
Well, we'll see.
Whittem, what are you gonna do if this mushroom thing doesn't work out?
After Bitcoin reaches world dominance, I'm going to shift into the very promising mycology sector. It's criminally understudied. It's a super science waiting to come over, and it's getting its due slowly. NASA is building moon bases out of mycelium. They're literally growing moon bases.
What?
And yeah, things are going to get really nutty in the future.
We might have to do an entire show based off of this. Okay. All right.
I was watching this documentary the other day where these scientists discovered a mycelial network, a subspace mycelial network that would allow time travel, essentially, like from one point in space to another point in space instantly.
This is Star Trek.
Yeah, it was called Star Trek Discovery. It was amazing.
People know.
I can't wait to use that thing. But oh my God, Brandon got me into this, and I went down to Paul Stamets like YouTube wormhole, and it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. It is criminally understudied. There's so much to mine there, so much learning to be done, and so much benefit for humanity to be found and discovered. So yeah, I might be there with you, Brandon.
Love it. One quick note on that. I recorded a podcast recently with an evolutionary biologist. Brady, you've heard a bit of this, but essentially they're studying underground economies, right? So you have fungi who are mining minerals, and they connect into the plants. The plants photosynthesize, which creates food. And so the plants grow or create their own food, and then they sell it to the mushrooms in exchange for minerals. And it's a relationship. They co-evolved. And now they're actually observing Mycelium, which is the network that fungi create. They're observing trade policy, and the mushrooms actually, give better prices to the more willing and able trade partners, and they shift their resources around. They hoard resources when they're abundant and sell them high later. And so it's sort of a fundamental thing about biology, especially at the microbiology level, is that they're constantly engaging in economic behavior. And it's pretty wild. And the person I talked to is like a devout socialist who's realizing that free market principles are at play underground every day. And now she's modeling it, and her mind is also being open to Bitcoin. And so we have a little side chat going. I think we're going to see a crossover there.
You are blowing my mind right now. I want to hear a podcast episode of this. Oh wait, I gotta walk that back. We don't do podcasts anymore. I want to hear a whole Clubhouse chat about this.
Toby, if you're listening, I'm sending you a message. Time to get on Clubhouse.
Definitely. We'll be there this afternoon. So I've got something really fun I want us to do that'll kind of reinforce the idea of low time preference thinking. But before we get to that, let's talk about the big anti-fragile elephant in the room. Let's talk about Mr. Taleb. What a morning. What do you think? What's with this guy?
Beautiful OPSEC, excellent OPSEC. I'm selling all my Bitcoin too. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
You think he's not selling his Bitcoin? I don't know. Like, I feel like he's not. He was never that invested in it to begin with. So maybe he's doing it. I don't know.
He did write that foreword for Safety's book. So at one point he was a little bit invested in it.
He was talking about safety today when he said COVID skeptics or whatever.
Someone asked me, they tweeted me, and they were like, "What do you think about this?" And I was like, "It's way too personal for me to give a shit about it." Like, it's so like that first part was just the setup for the second part. It was like, oh, you had someone challenge your ego and you didn't like it, so you're gonna like you're too smart theoretically to know, like, to assume that like the whole space could be taken by any one type of person. This is personal, and I don't have any time for it. However, I will say that Yassine's tweet back to him is going in the absolute pantheon of clapbacks. It is maybe the best clapback tweet I've ever seen. If you haven't seen it yet, check out his Brecky, you do a dramatic reading of it. His analyst at ARC, who's obviously the best, the man ARC. Talk about a firm that's just running roughshod over everyone else in the market. But anyways, I can't wait. The true flippening today is when that tweet ratios the original, and it's getting close.
If you're watching right now, I'm retweeting it so you can find it. What kind of voice does this deserve? I may just read it.
You can just read it. You don't even need to do it.
Nouriel Rubini voice. I'll just read. Actually, let's not read Taleb's tweet. I'm just going to read this. You should read Anti-Fragile. Great book. There is no in quotes. There is no long-term stability without short-term volatility. Nassim Nicholas. I also saw that Safe tweeted that that Michael Saylor agreed to write the new forward for the reprinting.
And Saif took a jab and he's like, yeah, and Michael Saylor actually read the book. Justin Moon chirps at him too, and he just says, hey, maybe you should read The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean.
Yeah, I saw that one. Oh, man.
Like a lowbrow version of Yassine.
Yeah, it does look too personal.
I also don't know. I feel like at this point, like the people who the people who like Taleb or like hold him on a pedestal have an almost nostalgic view from like the moment that he like snapped their brain into thinking differently. And they like desperately want him to be something that he's clearly demonstrated that he's not over and over and over again. You know, like I feel like Naval really thinks his brain is like profound. You know what I mean? They've done very rare content appearances together. And Naval was like, please don't, no, please. Like,
please reconsider. Please reconsider.
Yeah.
And
you know, and I don't know Naval, and like I like Naval's brain a lot too. So he's totally allowed to do that. And I don't know. I just like, come on, guys. It's like worshiping Taleb is like still quoting Fight Club 20 years after you saw the movie at this point. You know, it's like, yeah, it was really good, but like, there's been other things that have come out that have also changed.
Bitcoin memes I've got to go destroy. I'll be right back.
Anyway, I don't know.
No, I mean, that's the thing though. It's like, you know, don't put anyone on a pedestal. Like, and look, like this is Swan Bitcoin. Like, it's a total reference to Black Swan, but like, you know, we don't put anyone on a pedestal. You know, the only thing we put on a pedestal is Bitcoin. So,
are you sure about that? Is Corey mourning the loss of Nassim?
No, he had some insightful responses. Go check him out. Yeah, you know. But anyway,
I think an interesting meta point here is that because Bitcoin's in the spotlight now, we're going to see a ton of people come out of the woodwork and, you know, share their opinion. Many of them are going to be shooting from the hip. We're going to laugh at them. Then they're going to be embarrassed. And I don't know. I think that's kind of good for Bitcoin in a sort of a Streisand effect type way.
I mean, that's the thing is like most of the FUD has been refuted. So if you're going to refute Bitcoin and you haven't done your research, it becomes obvious very, very quickly. And you know, the whole army of cyber hornets is on Twitter ready to tell you that you're wrong. So, all right.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if there's some new FUD that's like more meaningful or intelligent that comes up. Like so far, we've just got kind of rehash versions of old things, which have been less, you know, compelling. So I don't know. I'm definitely watching that closely, and so far, verdict is a big fat no.
What's your take, Nathaniel, on Mike Green? He brings a lot of heat, but I think with a little intellectual rigor, there's not much there. But he has a strong opinion.
Yeah, I mean, so I had Travis Kling on the show, and this is like basically what one of the kind of big topics we talked about. And Travis and I have both followed Mike Green's work around passive forces on the market and been, you know, kind of impressed. You know, historically, I've asked Mike on the show a bunch of times, and you know, he's always said, this is, you know, over the last year or whatever, he's always been kind of like, you know, I don't want to wade into that so much, you know, which I totally appreciate. Like, you know, for me, like the show is about power, and I don't think you can talk about power without talking about Bitcoin, and that's why I spent a lot of time there. So I'm always open if people have other aspects of power flows that they can expose. They don't have to like be kind of a Bitcoin acolyte to be on the show, you know? So that's why I wanted Mike on back in the day. But like, it's just like the fact that his first appearance where he decided to do it was like Eric Townsend and him decide to do both their first show on Bitcoin, and it's with each other. I'm like, you guys clearly don't care about actually doing a show about Bitcoin, you know? Like, let's just rename your show Boomer Macro and let's move on with it because it's a joke, you know? And I think that feeling of it being disingenuous is what a lot of people felt, you know? It's like, dude, like you are the type of person who could have really deep conversations about this stuff, even if you come to different conclusions. But like, the idea that it's somehow anti-American is just so silly, and repeating the same kind of, again, it's just things that have been rehashed over and over and over again. So I don't know. Will the real good critic please stand up? Someone who's like an actual combatant. I mean, listen, here's a weird line that I don't know. I'm not confident enough to say it, but like maybe the MMTers, right? The Rohan Grays of the world will actually give us like meaningful intellectual debate, because they're like, they see the world in a completely different and often opposite way, but are engaging in good faith. Like, I've been reasonably impressed with how Rohan Gray has comported himself, like vis-a-vis his conversations, like after the Stable Act or whatever came out. And so that would be cool. Like, I would love if like the Bitcoiners and the MMTers like had a begrudging mutual like respect, at least in terms of like the Twitter battlefield that they're constantly engaging on. Like, at least, with them, like they're not like, going back to what I was saying before, they're not in it to like win some media points and go book another appearance. It's like they genuinely see the world in a completely opposite way, and that's like productive for people to listen to, even if you totally disagree. So I don't know, that could be totally optimistic and and ridiculous of me, but like, I don't know, who knows.
I mean, Bitcoin is optimism, so let's run with that. I've got something that I want to do, and it might be a little painful for us, but I think we have to do it. It's worth doing. Give me 1 second. Let me get it ready.
If it's what I think it is, yes, it is painful.
Yes, it is.
Amazing. This is absolutely amazing.
What you think it is. So for those at home watching, there's a website, bitcoinorshit.com. We got to get the guy who made this on here at some point. I saw Benny from BTC Sessions trying to get him on for their show, but we got to do this now. So we're going to go through all of these, and basically what it does is it shows you something that you might have bought. It shows you the price you might have paid for it, and it shows you what it would be worth now in Bitcoin terms had you bought Bitcoin instead. So what I would like us to do is, if you see anything that you bought at that time, please let us know and tell us how it makes you feel.
Or cry. It's okay to cry.
It is okay to cry. All right, we've got a GoPro Hero 3. Did anyone buy a GoPro Hero 3 around the year 2012? No takers. Well, now it would be worth over $1 million. No regrets.
Holy shit.
How about an Amazon Echo in 2014? Oh, none of you are any fun. 14,000. All right, let's keep going. Oh, wait. Oh, we have a special guest. He joined us. Mr. Max Keiser, welcome.
Yo, let's get it on. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Let's get it on.
Happy Friday, King Max.
Everything is great. I'm having a great time. Great to see you all in the Swan Lounge. I got my Swan right here. Here it is, the Swan. I got the Swan. I'm into Swan.
Have you done your afternoon breastfeeding of the Swan?
I breastfeed my Swan. Come on, little Swanee.
Look at
that.
Do I have to do that now?
Look at that. I'm lactating fresh Satoshis into the mouth of the Swan right now. Oh, it loves it. He loves gorging on Satoshis. Don't end up like Plucky. Look at Plucky was not breastfed as a child, and look what happened. Look at poor Plucky. Oh, Plucky.
And some of those cuck buck formula. That's what happens.
Cuck bucks. Avoid the cuck. What happened to Nassim Taleb? He seems to have lost his mind.
Hold on. We're gonna go back to what we were just doing. Let's chat for a little while.
Yeah, Brecky, what are you talking about?
Well, what we were talking about. Hold on. I'll show you. It's this website that shows you what you'd have now if you hadn't bought something stupid.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Oh, it's great. 42 grand if I hadn't bought. What is this thing?
Man, the selection has been like really good. Coney 2012 into the 4-Hour Chef was like there's a person who was watching that and being like, fuck. They probably lived in Venice or maybe the Mission in San Francisco.
So good. So good.
We were just talking about Taleb though. We're talking about how it got a little personal and whether he actually sold his Bitcoin or not. That's a question still. What do you think, Max? What was your reaction?
Well, I saw one of the comments. They quoted one of his quotes from I guess it was from the Black Swan, where the quote was something to the effect that you have to accept volatility, in any asset that you expect to have a outsized return on. And so that's right from Nassim himself. So his tweet seems to goes against that. He's saying, "Oh, it's too volatile, and we can't." Therefore, he had some conclusion based on it. So he seems to go against himself. He's arguing he's not being consistent here. So there must be something else going on. I think it's. I think, like a lot of people, he's jealous of the fact that this asset came around and he missed it. And the same thing with Nouriel Roubini, and the same thing with a lot of people, is that they basically missed it. So they are desperately trying to rationalize it in a way, or talk it down, or they just, I call it Bitcoin derangement syndrome. If you don't go with Bitcoin, if you try to go against Bitcoin, it can really drive you insane. There are people in the Bitcoin community itself that have gone insane, right? Craig Wright is an obvious example of somebody who's gone certifiably insane. Roger Ver has gone.
Yeah, I think he might have started
insane, right? And a lot of people who are in it early, like in the 2009, 10, 11, I came in 2011. A lot of people that I know who came in at that time have gone crazy. They've disappeared. They're dead. A couple of people have dead. Right. So it's a very dangerous thing to play with. It's like, so Nassim Taleb thought he could outwit. He's a public intellectual, and he thinks he can outwit Bitcoin. He's not willing to let Bitcoin just be Bitcoin. So it's driving him mad. He's going mad, like in the Keene Mutiny. Remember the Humphrey Bogart character went insane in the end. He was always looking for his strawberries. Oh, where are my strawberries? You stole my strawberries. That's Nassim Taleb right now, or Captain Ahab. He's going to go down. He can't accept the white whale. So I don't feel good about it, because I like the guy, and he's a nice, warm guy, but he's going nuts.
I think Bitcoin, if you were crazy before Bitcoin makes you sane. And if you were sane before Bitcoin, it makes you crazy. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Also, Stacy, I see you in the chat. Why don't you come say hi? Everyone loves you. We like you more than Max. Get in the frame. Come on, say hi.
I like Stacy more than Max too.
Queen Stacy.
Now, tomorrow, February 13th, will be 18-year anniversary of when Max met Stacy.
Wow, that's exciting.
That's right. So I walked into an internet cafe in the south of France in a town called Villefranche-sur-Mer, and Stacy was there, and she was on the as I see her often now for 18 years. She's typing stuff, typing, writing. And the guy running the cafe said, "Oh, Max, you got to meet Stacy. She's American too. You two will probably get along." And we've been together for 18 years now.
That's beautiful.
Everyone in the chat, put some hearts in the chat for Max and Stacy, and smash the like button for Max and Stacy.
Happy Valentine's Day, you Bitcoin lovers.
Yeah. That's why also we haven't gone insane too, because a lot of people in Bitcoin who went insane were single men, right? So without the influence of being in a relationship, a lot of single men in Bitcoin went insane. They dropped out. They couldn't handle it. So the fact that the relationship is really more important than Bitcoin. So that's why, Bitcoin always takes a second place to the relationship. And I think that's what has really kept everything going now for this whole time.
I recorded a podcast just before this show with Camilla and her husband Devin, and we talked a lot about Bitcoin and Bitcoin love and Bitcoin families, and it's for real. It's a real thing, though. It's Bitcoin brings us together globally and also in our love lives. Bitcoin is love, right, Max? Am I right?
Bitcoin is love. This is the philosophy of Bitcoin, because it's essentially anti-coercion and anti-violence, because fiat money is very pro-violence. Fiat money breeds violence and coercion. But with Bitcoin, when everyone's individually sovereign with unconfiscatable hard money, the only way you can get some is by offering trade in a peaceful way. And so that's very pro-humanity, as Paul Tudor Jones even said Bitcoin was pro-humanity, and he thought gold was kind of banking on disaster, and Bitcoin was banking on engineering and humanity and things like that. So I think you can say that Bitcoin is love in that sense, and it tends to demonetize fear and hate.
Yeah.
Yep. Real quick, very important. To the guy in the chat who's asking for Bitcoin and the other guy who's shilling altcoins, don't make me ban you. I will do it. Don't make me.
Oh yeah, we like to ban people in our Telegram group. Stacy uses the orange sparkly shoe.
What do you mean? That's the ban shoe? You bring down the ban shoe?
Yep, we hammer them with the orange sparkly shoe. Get rid of them quick. We have zero tolerance for shitcoins.
There's actually someone in the YouTube chat right now that said they were banned from the Orange Pill Telegram group for being too eccentric. I'm like, how are you too eccentric for Max and Stacy? I don't understand. That does not compute.
I don't think I think they're fibbing. I don't think you can be banned for being too eccentric. You can only get banned for shitcoining, basically, and if you have a micro penis, right? So Stacy likes to drop the micro penis meme on anybody who's an incel, who's like a Karen, who has a micro penis. So there's a micro penis meme. And I use that also on Twitter when people like Noriel or somebody tweet. It's usually just guys who haven't been laid in a few years. Like Noriel, when he was famous, he was always seen in the company of young girls getting drunk. But since his fame has dissipated because Bitcoin has replaced Noriel as the alpha dog, now he's all sexually frustrated, can't get a date, and he's lashing out like an incel, like a micro penis. So he must be called out. He must be called.
Max, what do you think? What do you think Nuriel has on his Tinder profile? What does it say? Economist, more well known than a Bitcoin.
I'm sure. No, I tell you, it's probably a photo of Nuriel at Davos shaking hands with Bill Gates, right? And it says something like, some Italian, fucked up Italian phrase, because that's his heritage. It's like, I'm up for pizza, Chianti, and I'll eat your liver. So it's kind of like Hannibal Lecter meets Fuzzy Wuzzy the bear on his Tinder shot, him in Davos. And then that's why he's not getting laid, because any woman who looks at this is going to immediately turn 180 degrees and run as fast as they can in the opposite direction. This guy looks like a serial killer. He probably is a serial killer. So, women are not attracted to that. Not anymore. Maybe in the 1980s. That's when serial killers were huge. I think Charles Manson got more marriage proposals than any guy on Tinder while he was in jail.
It's true. Nathaniel, did you is this the show you expected to have when you joined us today?
More or less, honestly.
Oh, okay, cool.
I probably should have started drinking earlier. It would have been even more fun.
This is sober. I'm sober. I don't know about anything else, but this is green tea.
I got my special drink.
I never disclose the contents of my cup, so assume what you will.
Fair.
Well, another week is come and gone, right? Another big week in Bitcoin. Another new all-time high. So we're on track for a great 2021. And we got, I see Apple Pay is doing a deal with BitPay to essentially incorporate Bitcoin into Apple Pay. So that's big news. That's a big adoption right there. Huge news. You got, I think one of the Visa or MasterCard said they're going to start doing Bitcoin. It's just the news. The good news keeps rolling.
It's been a week. It's been a good week. And I think next week's going to be better, to be perfectly honest. I think we're going to see 10 new companies announced. I think we're going to see Bitcoin at $100,000. I think, I don't know. I don't even know where we're going or what's happening, but
I mean, we're still trickling in for fourth quarter reports, right? Earnings reports, and those are still coming in. So we could certainly see some more announcements over the next couple of weeks.
Right. So the FT this weekend, the weekend FT has Elon Musk is the front page of FT weekend and it's all about Bitcoin and has Bitcoin arrived. And so that was big news, I guess, because Elon Musk is, he's the richest guy in the world, I guess he was, or he's at some, close. And so it's big news. So you can't underestimate that piece of news and what the impact of that will be. And, he made it safe for a lot of people to get involved. Michael Saylor made it safe for corporate treasuries. Paul Tudor Jones made it safe for hedge funds. Mass Mutual made it safe for insurance companies. Fidelity's already been in for many years. We have yet to see a sovereign wealth fund come out with any participation in Bitcoin. So the whether it's Qatar or Norway, these are huge funds, and I would expect that one of them would come out this year and announce that they've got some kind of Bitcoin position.
Wait, I thought Norway does, or does Norway have a MicroStrategy position?
They have it through ownership in stocks that own Bitcoin. They might have a small position, but I don't think they haven't come out outright and said we're building a position. You've got, of course, on the central bank balance sheets, we haven't heard yet. One of them, there was that fake story about Kenya that was floated around. But the senator from Nigeria who said that Bitcoin makes our own currency obsolete. It makes it worthless. This is just it's getting too obvious now. It's just getting these folks are going to be piling into Bitcoin because the paper money system is just utterly disintegrating.
They're going to put us out of business, honestly. Like if we hit hyper Bitcoinization too soon, I don't know what's going to happen. But
what are we all going to do?
That would be a fantastic problem to have. Gladly shut the doors on Swan and retire.
What do we think about Dalio?
A fantastic problem. I would like to see personally at least one more cycle. Sorry, Bitcoin Moon fans. I think that that'll be a less painful transition than straight to Moon in the year 2021.
What Andy is saying, translation of what Andy is saying is, I don't have enough Bitcoin. But Andy, none of us have enough Bitcoin. So as long as we all don't have enough Bitcoin, then it doesn't matter. We can all go to the moon right now.
Well, I think, it's we're going to see you have one other major piece of the puzzle, and that is the dollar. So the dollar can have a tremendous collapse at any moment. And it's being held together with Scotch tape and rubber bands. And that's the big driver potentially in 2021. That's when you get a huge gap higher, when the dollar really crashes. And there's no reason for the dollar not to crash. It's and it's going to cause a lot of problems. But I think that's something that is out of everyone's control, and it's going to be a huge event, and that's what's going to catapult Bitcoin up, to the stratosphere.
I think you're right, and we've got some funny comments in the chat that I want to bring up. Somebody suggested that we build an artificial island in the shape of a swan. I'm all for that idea. It's a lot of fun. We've got another one saying that Bitcoin is back at 48K, which is, look, if that's still true, it's we're a few dollars off. We're almost there. And someone else said Swan will have to evolve into a Star Wars commentary channel. I think Brady might want it to be more of a Star Trek channel, but maybe we'll go back.
I can go both ways.
Yeah, we can do both. So
I'm an equal opportunity nerd.
Except when it comes to altcoins, only Bitcoin, only one nerd coin.
So what are we making of the Dalio news that he's speaking at Consensus? He's obviously changed his tune. He's been begging for Bitcoin in his writings, although we didn't name it. Is he holding now? Is he going to announce? What's the deal?
He's gonna announce a fund. I think that the circumstances might force him to announce early, but there's no way that they are not building a fund. Like, that's highly concentrated. They'll probably have it be a bunch of alternative store of value assets or something like that, rather than just Bitcoin. And that'll be the kind of alpha they're trying to generate or whatever, but it's going to be Bitcoin primary. That last piece that he wrote about it, what I actually think of Bitcoin, absolutely read like a person who's smart enough to know that it would look disingenuous if he went from where he had been to where he was now, but he's been paving the way for himself perfectly from a media standpoint to announce and be like, here's, I still have these concerns, but I got over it because it's too important right now for this. You know what I mean? Like, I still have the concern that if it gets too big, governments will come in, but it's too important. You know what I mean? Like, he just set up the alley-oop for himself. And listen, I don't think there's any way that he would have it's just, there's no way that he can reasonably devote the time to a coin, like a consensus type conference, if he's not trying to make his position in this space part of his portfolio. It would just be ludicrous otherwise. Like, there's not a big enough one that there's no way that CoinDesk can pay enough for it to matter. Like, and two, there's not a chance that he would take that time when he could be off, speaking at anything he wants. Right. This is the perma keynote invite guy. So I would be shocked if my only question is, like I said, whether he feels like he has to announce earlier because May's still hella far away.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I guess he's building a separate product from what I understand.
That's my guess. Yeah, that's what it seems like.
So he's going to build a separate product. I guess that gives him a way to talk about it as a laboratory. Like, we're going to create this separect product and we're going to ease our way into it before we put it into the main fund. So I guess he's getting into it that way. And if he's the keynote speaker, then clearly he's on the path there. That's we called this for a couple of years that in the hedge fund industry, I mean, when Bill Miller over at his fund and Paul Tudor Jones at his fund and other folks, I mean, competitively, he has to get on the boat or he's going to be out of business. So, unlike academics like Nouriel Roubini, for example, they can be wrong their entire careers when there's no penalty for that. But in the hedge fund industry, if you're not making money, you're going to lose clients and then you're out of business. So you can't afford the luxury of being stupid in the hedge fund industry.
He also, he's still constrained by liquidity. I mean, he runs the world's biggest hedge fund, right? It's like 150 billion. I think the flagship fund itself is maybe close to 100 billion. Bitcoin actually was too small for him to trade, until recently. They try to stay liquid. They trade currencies, they trade commodities, they trade, indexes or, lots of pieces of stocks and bonds. And it's tough to move, $100 billion of capital in and out quickly of smaller assets. And until relatively recently, I'm not sure that Bitcoin could support the level of liquidity that his flagship fund would have required. Maybe it can now, or maybe it's right on the cusp. But that, I think, is another reason why you haven't heard anything good out of Ray Dalio about Bitcoin until very recently, because he couldn't trade the thing.
Mm-hmm. We were on Clubhouse, actually, and someone who formerly worked for his fund, we were talking about Ray Dalio, and she got on and started speaking, and basically Bitcoin is just way too small to even merit his attention. So, that makes total sense. I have to get going for a appointment on Clubhouse, actually. So let's we can't go on all day as much as we want to, but I think it's time we do our Swan Force Fridays. We put our guests on the clock and ask them to do a 60-second Bitcoin pitch. And I'm thinking you can always choose to pitch whoever you'd like. Please tell us who you're going to pitch. But it could be fun if you were to pitch Taleb, for example, or perhaps Nouriel Roubini, or perhaps Ray Dalio. So maybe give those a consideration when you're deciding who you want to pitch. Now, who wants to go first is the real important question.
I'll go first.
Well, all right then. 1 second. We're going to put you in the center.
Okay, ready?
It's right here.
This is a pitch to my friend.
All right. In 3, 2, 1.
Your friends are getting rich. 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 Your friends. Do I have to keep this up for 60 seconds, or is that sufficient?
Is there a call to action, or are you just going to tell them that your friends are getting
buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin?
From the author of Buy Bitcoin, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most articulate books on the subject, comes a great pitch.
Maybe add in, and you're not. Your friends are getting rich, and you're not.
And you're not. And you're not.
Rich, and you're not. And you're not.
Not
and you're not.
advice. Not investment advice. Not investment advice. Disclaimer. 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 I still got 30 seconds to spare.
Yeah. Lackluster, Andy. I'll give it to you. But lackluster. I know you can do better. Maybe write a book or something.
Next time.
It was clever.
All right. Who's up next? Raise your hand. Don't be shy.
I got this.
All right.
We're doing like the freshman course at college, like, I don't know, intro to world politics seminar or something.
That's the type of person that you're pitching? Someone who would take that class?
No, it's literally the whole class. We're doing it live for the whole class.
All right. In 3, 2, 1.
The story of history is a story of power. Who has it, who's trying to get it, and how they're trying to get it. For most of history, that's been about institutions ceding to other institutions, governments ceding to other governments. Bitcoin represents a fundamental break in that pattern and something more profound. The shift from institutions to networks. Networks, of course, being collections of individuals. Bitcoin is an organizing force for those networks to reclaim power from systems that weren't designed for them. And if you don't give a shit about any of that, it's still going to make you rich as hell.
Let's go.
Might be one of the best pitches and the most concise, perfectly framed ones I've ever heard on the show. Congrats. We don't have a leaderboard or a scoreboard, but if we did, you'd be at the top. All right,
it's almost like you talk for a living, Nathaniel.
Thank you for breaking down what Bitcoin is. All right, Max, you've done it before.
Yeah. Well, I would ask, this would be for the general public. I would ask, have you heard about Bitcoin? Have you heard that? Have you heard it in the news? Have you ever heard it before? Does the phrase mean anything to you? Oh, you have heard about it. Okay, great. And then you probably have heard that the prices keeps going up crazily. It's going up 200% a year. It's at 40,000, 45,000, 50,000. Have you heard about that? You have. Why do you think that is? Why do you think Bitcoin is doing that? Tell me, why do you think that is? Well, I'll tell you why it is. Because of this stuff, this paper money stuff, right? This paper money stuff has a horrible track record. None of it has ever lasted in history. Over 300 years, it's all gone to zero. As Voltaire once said, all paper money returns eventually to its intrinsic value of zero. And people who have lots of cash are worried. They don't want to end up like Venezuela. They don't want to end up like the Weimar Republic. They don't want to see their hard-earned money go down the drain because folks in Washington solve every single problem the exact same way. They just print money. They print more money. How much is inflation at your house, Mr. Jones? The government says it's 2%. Do you agree with them? Or do you actually have to buy healthcare? Do you actually have to buy education? Do you actually have, that's bullshit, isn't it? The actual inflation rate's a lot higher, isn't it? So they're lying. They're lying. They're lying, and they print lots of this stuff. Now, I would recommend gold, but unfortunately, there's something new. It's better, and it's called Bitcoin. And the reason it's going up is because people are scared to death that the value of their money is going to go, like every fiat money, to zero. Even at 40 or 50,000, it's cheap because it's going to a lot higher. Give me an order right now.
Boom. Smash and buy. Smash and buy.
I gave you an extra minute because you've been doing this for so long that I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Oh, really? That was 2 minutes?
That was 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Maybe a little less. All right. The Swan folks don't have to go, but if you'd like to, we'd love to hear your pitch. Somebody in the audience was asking for the pitch for if you were going to pitch someone who has socialist leanings, how would you pitch Bitcoin to them? Brandon, you might be able to do an interesting version of that if you're up for it.
Nothing's coming to mind for me on that one. I was going to pitch it as a digital organism.
Oh, well, I want to hear that one, so let's go for it.
All right, let's do that one short and sweet.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Bitcoin is a new life form that lives on the internet, and it's kind of a decentralized superorganism that resembles fungi, and it's currently metabolizing the fiat economy. And as part of this digital organism, digital superorganism, each one of us makes up a node, and together we form this entity that's larger than any one of us. And it keeps growing. It gets stronger when it's attacked. It learns, and it's not stopping. And there's really no choice but to form symbiosis with this new life form, or you're going to pay the consequences.
Yum, yum.
Cool.
It's going
All right.
to eat you.
I have the socialist pitch.
Let's hear it.
All right. Hey, so you're a socialist. You heard of Bitcoin, right? Did you know that Bitcoin is socialist? It is. It works on a collective of nodes. And these nodes are scattered all over the world, and they're completely equal in all way. And the software that runs it is open source. It's owned by everybody and nobody. And the result is Bitcoin, which gives wealth to everyone equally at all time, every 10 minutes. And there's no way to control the network, even if you have a lot of Bitcoin. So there's equanimity and equity for all. You see, it's actually a socialist paradise disguised as capitalism. It's fake capitalism. It's actually socialism. If you enjoy this network, you're actually expressing the purest form of socialism that you could ever comprehend. Give me an order right now for 10,000.
That's true. You don't have to. I never thought about this. When you give the Bitcoin pitch, normally I say, yeah, be truthful and honest and, tell them how it is. But you could also, frame it exactly how they need to hear it.
Oh, yeah.
Understand your audience.
You got to sell to whoever, you have to know who you're selling to. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to sell. But the thing about it is open source is a weird kind of socialist experiment, going back to Linux.
Mm-hmm.
This type of idea. I mean, you have the benevolent dictator with Linus Torvald, who does the sits in the middle of it. But the whole idea of open source or even P2P software, it's more socialist than capitalist in a lot of ways. People are giving all their energy and work for free in that sense, and they're working under a meritocracy. It's not really paid work. So it's actually closer politically to socialism than capitalism. So it is a hybrid. There's a few different aspects to it. It's just like one of the strategies of competition, which is underutilized, is altruism. So altruism is actually a strategy used in nature to compete in nature, and it's underused in our societies. But in fact, Bitcoin brings back altruism in a lot of ways. You're competing altruistically. Like our pitch is essentially altruistically. We're saying we're going to make things better in promoting an altruistic outcome, which is different than saying you're promoting a conquering territorial outcome. It's like, we're not saying we're going to own this country and therefore you're going to enjoy the spoils. We're saying altruistically, we're going to raise everyone's consciousness with this hard money, which brings on more of an altruistic outcome.
Well,
fiat is like we were talking about this earlier, Camilla. Fiat is like monetary colonialism.
Yep.
And Bitcoin reverses that.
I think it also stems from like a fundamental misunderstanding of what being greedy means. Like being greedy should mean it's like doing for yourself, right? It's always like me, but it's not. I think it was the Dalai Lama who was talking about this, but it's like enlightened greed, maybe, basically where we misunderstand what is actually good for ourselves. We think we're doing what's good for us, but really we're not. We're doing these low time preference things that really aren't good for us in the long term. And these things that we perceive as being, a pain in the ass or altruistic really are good for us in the long term. If everyone wants to be happy, doing things for other people will make you happy. So I don't know.
Well, it depends what you're greedy for, right?
Right.
If you're greedy for love, it's different than if you're greedy for hate. It depends what your fetish is.
Exactly.
Well, in a truly free market, being greedy is good because you are looking to, if you're trying to earn money, you have to do that by solving people's problems and wants and needs and fulfilling those desires. And, Bitcoin, an actual money, it's there to communicate those needs, those wants, desires efficiently across the society. And so if I can receive those signals, efficiently, I can more easily make money because I'm more efficiently and more effectively, fulfilling those needs and wants and desires. So you just end up having a happier planet. It works more efficiently. And those who are quote unquote greedy are really just helping people out, helping people be happier. And it's just done a lot more efficiently.
Well, there seems to be a difference between greed and selfishness. So selfishness seems to be less societally beneficial, whereas greed can take many forms, and not necessarily be detrimental. But selfishness tends to be about aggregating community assets to the detriment of the community.
Yeah.
And so in a paper money fiat world, because you can aggregate a lot of paper wealth and then go to Washington to lobby to make it easier to aggregate more paper wealth, you have this incredible income and wealth gap that's going on. With Bitcoin, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of Bitcoin. You can't change the consensus algorithm. You can't change the protocol. You can't change the emission schedule. Nobody has ultimate power over the network as you do in the fiat money system. So this fiat money system is at the end of its life, because once you go into negative interest rates, it's basically the white flag is being flown. It's the end of the cycle. It's all over. You can't come out. You can't come back from negative interest rates. So we're about to see now what a Bitcoin standard looks like, because we're all going to start actually living under a Bitcoin standard. Globally, there will be pockets of Bitcoin standardization everywhere in the world. In Nigeria, the government is trying to shut down Bitcoin, but the people are going to say, in my view, I predict that the huge population of Nigerians will say, we're not going to listen to you. We've seen the light. We've seen the light, and we're on the road to Damascus. We're not going to be taken off that road. That's it.
Yeah. Before we head off, Camilla, you have, I want to hear a pitch from you, if you don't mind. You're relatively new to Bitcoin, and you've been giving this pitch to your in-laws and your family. So I'd love to hear how your pitch is coming along and how progress is coming along with your families.
Well, it's amazing because with my family, I feel like, well, personally, my side of the family, not my husband, it was super easy for me to get the point across, right? So with my mom, I don't know if you're going to start it, Becky. I've already pitched to my mom before on the show. Okay, but what I was saying to you earlier when we were having our conversation is, it's amazing that a lot of people don't know that they have a blindfold, not only over their eyes or, their brain with their thoughts. Everyone is blind. Everyone that hasn't seen Bitcoin yet is completely blind. What really attracted me to Bitcoin was when I saw the potential that it had and what it can do to humanity. And once you have that blindfold off, it's like you just want to be a part of it and want to realize what is it that you can build, not only with Bitcoin, but in Bitcoin, right? So for me, Bitcoin is, like we were saying, it's honesty, it's freedom, and it's what the world deserves. And a lot of people don't know how to get these concepts in their lives, and Bitcoin is essentially the way. Once you have Bitcoin in your life, you feel like you're free. You feel like your thoughts just go 1,000 miles per hour, and you start thinking about things that you could never think about before. In this fiat system, all you think about is, how can I get more money, but that money is not going to give you the freedom. What gives you freedom is Bitcoin. When you actually are not thinking about money and you're thinking about how you contribute to. So that's my quick pitch right there. It's freedom. Everyone wants freedom.
Boom. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's right on point. I can tell that you've been sponging up all that Bitcoin stuff that we were talking about earlier. I saw you say in the chat that you're here to be a sponge, but it is clearly time for you to come out of your spongy ways and start being a little bit more vocal. I know it's hard to get a word in edgewise sometimes on these shows, but yeah, I think you've got a lot to share. So I appreciate that. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Camilla, I want to hear about how it's going with the Bitcoin in Espanol, because I feel like you're in English, you're the sponge that's absorbing everything, and then you go into this group, and then you squeeze the sponge, and all the knowledge flows out to everyone who speaks Spanish. So, can you tell everyone about what you're doing on Clubhouse and how it went yesterday?
Yeah, so we actually started a Spanish-speaking group because all of the majority of the rooms are in English, and there's so much amazing knowledge in these English rooms that I am the sponge. I just try to take everything in. But it really empowered me when I saw that there's a lot of different communities emerging within Clubhouse and having these conversations, and I didn't see a Spanish-speaking group that was really doing this. I was actually having discussions of Bitcoin in Latin America and what Bitcoin means to our Hispanic communities. So yesterday was our second official rundown of everything, and it's just amazing how many people want to speak, how many people have knowledge, and it's a crazy sensation because I feel like when I talk about Bitcoin in Spanish, it's like Max Keiser type of energy. It's just so much pumped up, and the people that have been in these rooms are just, they have beautiful minds, and the way that they want to contribute as well to their communities is amazing. And I feel like Bitcoin, I was talking to Brady about this earlier, but I'm from Colombia, and it's very easy to see all of the potential that these countries have, but they're not able to do it because of monetary policies. There's just so many things that can flourish out of these countries, and our job is just to educate. So what I'm trying to do in these groups is just bring all these brilliant minds together in the Spanish community and just have these discussions of how can we as a community start educating even more. And I know Max has a Spanish chat in Telegram, and those people are amazing, and that was super inspiring. So it's just bring that type of energy out in a platform, in a format where a lot of other people can listen in, learn, and have open discussions and hear our voices. I think it's super, super powerful. So super excited about that group.
Camilla, my Spanish isn't that great. Can you translate what Taproot Uvas wrote in the chat for us? I put it on screen.
I don't want to. He has no time for shitcoins. I think that's what it translated to.
Yep.
But yeah, he's right.
All right.
I love it. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. NLW had to jet, but make sure you follow him and check out his amazing podcast. It'll be in the show notes. Thank you to Max for joining us impromptu like you did and bringing your amazing energy as always. To Andy Edstrom, the author of Why Buy Bitcoin. Is that your book right there? Oh, it is. Go buy his book. It's a great book. It's awesome. It'll tell you why to buy Bitcoin if you don't already buy Bitcoin. But if you're watching the show to this point, hopefully you're buying Bitcoin. Go out, buy some Bitcoin. Thank you to Brady. Thank you to Brandon. Thank you to Camilla for joining us. And thank you to everyone in the audience. We love you very much. We love Bitcoin very much. Go out and buy some Bitcoin and have yourselves a great weekend. See you next time.
Buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin. We're getting rich.